Hello guys, welcome back. This is me Shruti with my friends Sumi and Charul, and we are back with part 2 of C++ programming. In the last part we have seen introduction to C++, its history and features, variables and data types. And then we have seen control structures, if else and switch, and three types of loop, for, while and do while. Today we are going to start with arrays. Let's say we want to store marks of 60 students. So with the prior knowledge, we would just declare the variable and then take input from the user. But this is very time consuming. This is where an array comes in action. An array is a collection of items stored at contiguous memory location. They are used to store similar type of elements, whichever it be int, float, double, char, etc. But it should be of the same data type. It is used in a program to organize data so that it is easier to search or sort them. So now let's see the syntax of how to declare an array, which is data type with a space, name of the array, within square bracket, number of elements. Number of elements as in the length of array. Let's see few examples. Int ARR of 10. Int is the data type, ARR is the name of the array, and within square brackets we have 10, that is the length of array. Similarly, it's double D for string S 5. Now remember, the length of array cannot be in decimal form, nor can it be in the negative form. So it should always be a positive integer. Now let's see how to initialize elements to the array. So the syntax would be data type, name of the array, number of elements equal to, within curly brackets we have the elements like int x 3, and we have the elements as 2, 4 and 6. Double y 5, and these are the 5 elements. Next we have string lang, which stores names of 4 programming languages. Since this is a string type of array, the elements are within double quotes. Let's see an example of the structure of array. See, the length of the array is 5, name of the array is A. In arrays, we use index to represent individual elements. So the first index is 0, followed by 1, 2, 3, and the last index is 4. Remember, the index starts from 0. Now, what if we want to access a single element? So let's see how to access the elements. This is our given array. Now if we want to access the first element, so we'll write ARR of 0, which will give us our third, which will give us the number 3. Now if we want to access the fifth element, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 67. But the index here is 4, so we'll write ARR of 4, which will give us 67. Now if we want to access the seventh element, so the index would be 6, ARR of 6, which gives us 91. And if we want to access the last element, which is ARR of 9, that gives us 22. Now let's see how to actually take input from the user. So we'll write the program in an online compiler, like we'll take int n and write C out, enter number of elements. Okay, then we'll see n, and then we'll initialize int arr of length n. Now we want to take the input from user, so we'll write a for loop for int I equal to 0, as our first index would be 0, and I less than n, as our last index is 1 less than the length of the array. Then we write say in arr of position I. So as the for loop continues, we will be able to take our input. Now we want to print it. So we'll write int again int I equal to 0, I less than then I plus plus, and it would be C out arr of I. Okay, now let's try to run it. See, enter number of elements, so it would be 10. Now we have to input 10 elements. So we'll write maybe 23, 3, 50, 54, 47, 98, 12. See, we got our elements printed, but it's in the same line. So what if we want to print it in a different line? So maybe 10. See, we got it printed in different line. What if we want to print it in the reverse form? So we'll make a few changes, like here it would be int I equals to n minus 1, and I should be greater than equal to 0, and I minus minus. Okay, minus minus. Let's run it. Enter number of elements. Let's take it 5. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we got it printed in the reverse format. Now we'll see the example of this array being initialized in our online compiler, and then we'll access these elements. So initialized, and then write the C out, okay, and arr of 0. Then I'll write backslash n. Okay. Now we want to access we'll write 4 as we want to access the 5th element. Then we'll write as 6th as we want to access our 7th element, and then last will be the 9th. Let's try to run it. 3, and our 5th element is 67, 91, and the last element is 22. Now what happens if I remove these elements? Like I've removed the last 5 elements. What happens? Let's try to run it and see. See, the ARR of 0 is 3 and it's 67, but there is no 6th and the 9th element. So what happens is we get 0 value. That means if we add less number of elements than the specified length, then the other elements are filled with 0. Okay. As we have seen, now we can enlist the advantages of array. Like array represent multiple data items of the same type using a single name. In array, the element can be accessed randomly by using the index number. Arrays allocate memory in contiguous memory location for all its elements. Hence, there is no chance of extra memory being allocated in case of arrays. This avoids memory overflow or shortage of memory in array. There are also many applications of array which we use in our programming languages, like in the stack queue implementation and all. Now after this, my friend will continue.
Hello guys, from now you will understand about function. So function in C++ is a block of code which is used to perform a particular task. For example, let us say you are writing a large C++ program, and in that program you want to do a particular task several number of times, like displaying value from 1 to 10 or like displaying letter from A to Z. So in order to do that, you have to write few lines of code, and you need to repeat these lines every time you display values. So another way of doing, or we say another easy way of doing this, is that you write these lines inside a function and call that function every time you want to display values. So this would make your code simple, readable and reusable. So when you want to run that code inside a function, you have to call that function. So function perform a specific task. We create functions so that we can call it as many times we want and perform that action. So there are two types of function in C++: standard library functions and user-defined functions. Standard library functions are also called as built-in function. So, as this name suggests, we need not to declare and define these functions, as they are already written in the C++ libraries such as IOStream, CMath, and etc. We can directly call them when we need. So, let us see an example of a standard library function. See, the function POW is a short form of power. So here we provide two arguments 2 and 5, and it will return the value of 2 to the power 5, because power function is built-in function in C++, which will provide us the solution of power function, like 2 to the power 5, 6 to the power 5, 3 to the power 2, and so on. Let us run it. See, 32. So 2 to the power 5 is equal to 32. So this output is 32. Okay, so this is the built-in function. And now standard library function. So standard library function is the one that created by users. Let us see another example of user-defined function. See, here we create this function sum, so it is user-defined function. Now you will understand about these and calling a function further in this video. See, now we will learn about create a function. So we create a function by declaring a name followed by parentheses. So for creating a function, first we have to provide what type of return value you want, like void, char, int, what type of you want, then you have to write here that data type, and then you have to write the name of a function. Like here, the name of the function is my function, and then you have to provide parentheses and then these curly braces, and you have to write your code inside these curly braces. So this is the syntax of creating a function. A C++ function has two parts, declaration and definition. So here, void my function parentheses, this is the declaration of a function. So return value type name of the function, and then parentheses. This is a declaration of a function. And inside these curly braces, we write the body of the function, which is also known as definition of a function. So we define our function inside these curly braces. Okay. So now we will see parameter and arguments. So we can pass information to the function as a parameter. Parameter is like variable inside the function. Parameter is given inside the parentheses beside the function name. So we can pass as many parameters we want. Okay. Here, see, this int num1 and int num2, these two are parameter of the function. So first we provide return type of this function, which is integer, so we type int, and then name of the function sum, and then parameter, which is int num1 and num2. Now this is the definition of a function. Int num3 is equal to num1 and num2, and then it will return num3. Okay, from main, now we will call the function sum. So cout sum, and we provide two arguments, 1 and 99. Here argument is the value of the num1 that we provide. So 1 is argument and 99 is argument. So it will take num1 as 1. It will take 1 as num1 and then 99 as num2, and it will perform int num3 as 1 plus 99, and it will return 100. Now let us run it. See, here the output is 100, and it is providing us right output. So this code is true. Okay. So here sum is user defined function, like we previously studied user defined function and standard library function. So this is the user defined function. Now syntax. Yeah, we already learned that. See, void function name parameter1, parameter2. So parameter1 was int num1 and parameter2 was int num2. Okay. C++ default parameter. So we can also use default parameter in function when we don't pass any argument. See, when we don't pass any argument, then we can use default parameter. So when we don't pass any argument, then function will take default value as an argument. So when we provide that default parameter, the function will defaultly take that parameter as an argument. For example, let us see. Void world, then string country is equal to India. So here we provide this default parameter, and then we define cout country. Okay. Then from main, we call world function and provide USA as an argument, then world function, then China as an argument. Then again we only call that function world, and here we do not provide any argument. So it will take India as an argument. Okay. Let us see this. See, here we provide India as a default parameter. On running it, we will see output as USA, China, India, and then UAE. See, USA, China, India, and then UAE. So it take India as a default argument from here. So this is the syntax, palette data type, then name that we use to define here, and then that argument. Okay. Now function prototyping. Yeah, this is very important. Function prototyping. So we use function prototype when we want to define a function after the declaration of a function. So the thing is that when you define the function before the main function in your program, then you don't need to do function declaration. But if you are writing your function after the main function, then you need to declare the function first, else you will get compilation error. See here, void function int. Here we declare the function first and then we call the function in int main and then we define that function. See, and if we didn't declare the function, then it would have show the compilation error. So we have to first declare and then we should define that function. So this is the case here. Now, types of user-defined function. The function with no argument. So there are four types of user-defined function. Function with no argument and no return value. Function with no argument but return value. Then function with argument but no return value. Then function with argument and return value. Here, function with no argument and no return value have syntax this. Void, which is because we have no return value, so it will use void. We will use void and then function name and then no argument, so parentheses are empty. So this is the syntax of function with no argument and no return value. Now function with no argument but return value. So here no argument, so these parentheses are empty. But here we have to provide return value. So we will use either int or char or any data type we want as a return value and then code to be executed and then brace is closed. Then with function with argument but no return value. So with argument then we will provide a parameter as int, num or carry or any data type and the variable we want. So it will provide here argument and then a no return value. So this way we will provide void function with argument and return value. So with argument then we will provide here parameter and here we will provide return value any data type we want. Okay, and then code to be executed and then braces closed. So that's all, and now Charul will take over.
Hello everyone. Now I am going to explain about calling of a function. To use a function, we need to call it. Once we call a function, it performs its operations and after that the control again passes to the main program. To call a function, we need to specify the function name along with its parameters. That is function name followed by brackets inside which we write the parameters of the function and then semicolon. Let us understand this through an example. Here, a function named average with two integer parameters num1 and num2 and return type float is declared. This means while calling the average function inside the main function, we need to give two integers as input and in return it will give us float as output. So by writing C is equals to average of num1 and num2, we are calling the function average with two parameters. Now average is called and it calculated and returned the average value of num1 and num2, whose value gets stored in variable C. One important thing is that if a function doesn't return anything, then its return type is written as void. Now let us see the ways of calling a function in C++. Function can be invoked in two ways, call by value and call by reference. These two ways are generally differentiated by the type of values passed to them as parameters. The parameters passed to function are called actual parameters, whereas the parameters received by the function are called formal parameters. Original value is not modified in call by value, but it is modified in call by reference. So this is the basic difference between call by value and call by reference. If the value is modified, then it is called by reference. If the value is not modified, then it is called by value. Let us understand this more clearly. Call by value. In call by value, original value is not modified. In this parameter passing method, values of actual parameters are copied to function's formal parameters, and two types of parameters are stored in different memory locations. So any changes made inside functions are not reflected in actual parameters of the caller. Now you already know about actual parameters and formal parameters. So let us proceed. Example of call by value. In this example, we passed the numbers num1 and num2 to the function swap. Since we passed the variables itself, the values of the function parameters a and b became equal to the respective values of the function arguments num1 and num2, that is 100 and 200 respectively. So basically in this program, the values of a and b got interchanged, but not of num1 and num2. Let us see the output of this program. See, the value of num1 is 100 and the value of num2 is 200. Though we are swapping the values remain same. That is call by value. Now let us understand call by reference. In call by reference, original value is modified because we pass reference, that is address. Here, address of the value is passed in the function, so actual and formal arguments share the same address space. Hence, value changed inside the function is reflected inside as well as outside of the function. Example of call by reference. In this example, we passed the addresses of the variables num1 and num2 to the function swap. Since this time we interchanged the values of addresses to the original variables, so the values of the original variables also got interchanged. Because unlike values, we cannot change the addresses of the variables. The output of the following program can be seen. See, in this case, we specified our value of A as 100 and B as 200. But in the output, we get the value of A as 200 and value of B as 100. So that means our values got swapped. This is the difference between call by value and call by reference. In call by reference, our value get modified because we pass the address, whereas in call by reference, the value remains the same. Let us move ahead to the new topic, that is recursion in C++. When function is called within the same function, it is known as recursion in C++. The function which calls the same function is known as recursive function. So if we look here, this recurse function is called inside the same function, that is recurse. So this is called as recursion. But if recurse function is called inside main function, then it is called calling of a function which we learned earlier. Let us understand recursion through an example. In this example, we have to calculate the factorial of a number. The factorial of a number n is the product of all natural numbers till n. For example, the factorial of 4 is 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, which is equal to 24. And the factorial of 0 and 1 both is 1. Now, since we passed n to the function factorial, therefore, the value of a is that of n. Thus, if the value of a is 0 or 1, we want to return 1. Otherwise, if the integer a is greater than 1, then we want to return a into factorial of a minus 1. For example, if the number is 4, then a into factorial of a minus 1 implies 4 into factorial of 4 minus 1, which is equals to 3. So by writing a into factorial of a minus 1, we are again calling the function factorial inside itself, but this time the argument is a minus 1. Now let us see the output of this program. Enter a number. So suppose we enter 4. See, the factorial of 4 is 24. If we will enter 0 or 1, so the program will return 1. Now let us proceed further and understand what is function overloading. With function overloading, multiple functions can have the same name with different parameters. For example, our function is my function, so it can be declared with the help of int, float or double. This is known as function overloading. So this is the end of our workshop. Thank you.